Hello, everybody. Welcome to a Thirsty Thursday edition of Gojo and Golic. What is coming up in this show? Welcome to Chapel Bill, everybody. Bill Belichick does the unthinkable and is going to college to coach UNC. Guy's going to absolutely crush the game, if you know what I mean. Bird talk. Apparently winning doesn't cure everything. Not a lot of brotherly love in the city of brotherly love. And in the softest, weakest move in mankind history, few politicians are trying to make it a felony to plant the flag at midfield at Ohio State. We're diving into all this and so much more because this show is 2 freaking hours long. Buckle up.
Welcome to Gojo and Golic. Mike Golic Jr., Mike Golic Sr., Emerson Latzia in here with us today. We got a great one for you. As always, make sure you download, subscribe, rate, and review the show. Leave it a 5-star rating and check us out here live Monday through Friday from 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern on the DraftKings Network. Subscribe to our YouTube channel, Gojo and Golic on YouTube. Hit the bell so you know when we're going live here. Fun one coming up with some good guests here. Julian Love, Seahawks, one of his captains, leading tackler of that team, going to stop by and talk about their surge over the last month trying to take the NFC West. And TJ Hockenson, Vikings tight end, who battled back from a nasty knee injury last year to become an important part of one of the most dangerous teams in the NFL. We've got plenty to get to there. And oh, by the way, Bill Belichick's going back to college. But before we get to that, we'd like to wish a very happy birthday to one member of the show here. Happy birthday, Dad. What's going on, you old son of a bitch?
Yeah. 62 years old. You know what? People always like, oh, what are you going to do on your birthday? I'm not going to do anything. I'm going to go have breakfast with your mom, and that's really pretty much going to be it. You know, really celebrate them. I mean, I guess some people do, and more power to you if you do. But, yeah, I don't really celebrate them much anymore.
Wow.
But I am 62. Once I I'm not going to lie. 50s weren't bad. 40s were great. 50s weren't bad. 60, I'm starting to feel it a little bit. I'm not going to lie. Got to get a shoulder replaced. Going to have to get a knee replaced. So it doesn't sound like a very happy birthday that I'm sitting here talking about as you wish me a happy birthday. I'm like an old man complaining.
Yeah, you sound miserable.
It is I do feel like it's like a space shuttle shedding off layers though as you go on, especially for professional athletes that played for a long time, because I remember when you hit 50 it was like a button got hit and the next day you were getting a bunch of different surgeries lined up for all the various injuries, and so now you've gone from trying to repair the limbs there to going full $6 million man and just getting those limbs replaced out. I thought of you as in the sauna the other day at the gym I belong to, and one of the guys in there had just gotten his knee replaced and was complaining about all the rehab from it there. So that's what you've got to look forward to. But you're giving yourself the gift of increased mobility. Although, Emerson, we do worry because my father is the rookie of the year when it comes to his knee. He's got a knee that doesn't fully extend all the way when he's standing, but for some reason it allows him to run like a gazelle when you put him on a treadmill at an Orange Theory or something. And so me and my mom have joked it's like the movie Rookie of the Year, where once we fix this, is he going to be as mobile? Is he going to look as good on the treadmill?
Yeah.
We don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point. Listen, senior, every time you're here in office and we're hanging out and we're sharing laughs at the snack wall together, I can't get over how incredible you look. So whatever you are doing, I do not care about your little fake robotic knee. You look tremendous, my guy, okay? And we all love you.
Well, I appreciate that very much. And yeah, I'm going to hold off on the knee because I can still run. But yeah, the shoulder just is gone too far. So I am going to have to go bionic there. But, that's okay. Like the doctor said, you should rehab in time to make some of the golf tournaments you're in. He said it shouldn't hurt your game. I said, hell, it ain't going to hurt my game. It can only help my game.
Yeah.
My game, it's bad enough as it is.
I figured you've waited long enough to get this done. They should have the technology ready from like the Captain America Winter Soldier movies to give you one of those kind of bionic arms that we're talking about here. Just swap out the whole thing and get a super arm.
That's what I thought. I wait long enough to let where technology is really advanced. And but yeah, it's still just a shoulder. And the doctor said, yeah, you probably should have had this done 5 to 7 years ago. I'm like, oh yeah, thanks for that. Okay, appreciate that.
Where are you getting breakfast? Do you know?
Right at a little place my wife and I enjoy in the area here.
Very romantic.
Yeah,
nice.
we're very location out here. You
well,
saw
no. I mean, she makes him breakfast like every day. He's eating on air half the time. I didn't know if it's going to be like at home.
That is true. If you have been watching this show, when you see my dad's eyes dart off and he smiles off camera, it's my mom delivering him breakfast into his little studio out in the back of the house. It happens every day. It's like hilarious.
It's like a delivery service diner. It's fantastic. Yeah, but we're going to eschew the breakfast this morning and go out to breakfast after the show.
All right,
so she does not have to cook a breakfast.
Drop the coordinates of your location for breakfast so we could all join you.
Yeah, it's not happening. Yeah.
Happy birthday, Dad.
No.
We love you.
Man.
We hope it's a good one here. Hopefully, your birthday, you don't have the same maybe crisis that's going on with Bill Belichick where you decide you want to go back and coach a football team in college now. As the news finally went final yesterday, after all of the reports and whispers and wonders, and most of us sitting here believing there's no way he's actually going to do this, Bill Belichick is announced as the next head coach at the University of North Carolina. That is not a typo. Dad, we talked about this a lot. We talked about the reasons why. Ultimately, how surprised were you this actually happened and we're going to get to watch Bill Belichick, as many people have pointed out, go on the road and play at Cal or potentially lose on the road to Virginia next year?
I'm stunned. I'm not going to lie. I thought for sure that one of his goals, while I don't think he would say it publicly, was there. He's 15 wins behind passing Don Shula all time. Wins in the NFL. He has 333. Don has 347. I would have thought he would want to go back to the NFL and do that. I'm trying to think of why he went to college. Is it, listen, I know he enjoys college. His dad coached in college. He grew up around college football. His dad actually was an assistant coach. His dad, Steve, at North Carolina from, I think, 53 to 55. So he's, as he said, he's been around college. But he's never coached college. He's always been in the NFL from 1975 to 2023. He has been in the NFL, and we know all his NFL credentials, and I do think he would have liked to finish that off by getting those 15 wins. I don't know, guys, if it's a thought that he didn't see himself getting a job in the NFL. There's 3 available. There's going to be more available. Is it because he still wants too much control? Would he be able to change and say, I don't need control? I don't think so. I think he's a guy that needs a certain amount of control that is he not going to get in the NFL. He didn't even really wait for the cycle of interviews to begin for the NFL.
Yeah.
That was the surprising thing to me. So was there a thought that because that happened so late and all the college positions would have probably been filled by then, did he feel he needed to get back into coaching? He needed to take something to get back in case he missed the NFL cycle again.
Yeah, that's the confusing part to me, because just a few weeks ago, Diana Rossini at The Athletic was reporting that Bill Belichick wanted to get back into coaching at the NFL level in 2025. And to your point, forget just the hiring cycle with the teams currently on the market. We know, based on what happens every year, there's probably going to be at least 3 more jobs that come open around the NFL. And the fact that Bill waited for none of those, if we're gaming that out as the way this decision went around, then, Dad, wouldn't that come off a little more desperate than you'd imagine Bill Belichick would be to do something given where he's at? This idea that, I need to take something. Now, we can debate the job and the strength of the job in North Carolina, as people constantly point out. Huge brand, certainly an area in Charlotte, that population growth, all these metrics that lead you to believe that if you hit this right, North Carolina could be something football-wise, even though we know at this school it's always going to be second fiddle to the basketball team, and that's traditionally been the power struggle there. But that's the part that's confusing to me, is it would seem like desperation if it's going that way. And so the other side, God, is it maybe just someone that wants to do something totally different at this point, that grew tired of the potential rat race and having to chase all that after years of doing it in the NFL? I really don't have a good reason as to why Bill Belichick would go and do this, but now he's here, and trying to figure out where he goes from there becomes the interesting part too, because you saw too, Michael Lombardi, one of our former colleagues over at VSiN and the GM Shuffle, announced that he is joining Bill Belichick as the GM of this team at North Carolina. And so they're already putting this together. It's widely believed that Steve Belichick, his son, who was the DC at Washington this last year, is going to join them as a member of the staff. There's even people that are going out there with the rumor that he would be named the coach in waiting as a contingent of this contract, which is a 5-year, $50 million deal. And Dad, you're going to get the investment, right? North Carolina put $50 million into the stadium upgrade and facilities upgrade around there. In theory, we heard about this Bible that Bill Belichick supposedly gave them with all these plans. In theory, Bill Belichick is coming here with also a match and an uptick in the money they're putting into the football program, whether it's NIL, the revenue share that's going to come up, and what have you. Yeah,
they're going to, if you're bringing in Bill Belichick, who, by the way, comes in as the oldest coach in Division I. Kirk Ferentz, he's 72. Kirk Ferentz is 69. Casey Wheeler at Temple is 65. And Kyle Whittingham at Utah is 65. So, listen, they're going to have to invest in this program. When you bring in Bill Belichick and the hype that goes with it, you have to be ready to pay players. Because, listen, as great as Bill Belichick is, there are 18, 19, and 20-year-old kids, A, that probably don't know a lot about him, and B, are going to still want their money, right? And if they get money at LSU instead of North Carolina, or at Clemson, or maybe not Clemson's maybe not the right pick, at Miami instead of North Carolina, and those teams are still sending players to the pros. I know Bill said, if I was in a college program, the college program would be a pipeline to the NFL for the players that had the ability to play in the NFL. It would be a professional program, training, nutrition, scheme, coaching, and techniques that would transfer to the NFL. That's what all colleges are going to. All colleges are going to the professional level, bringing in GMs. And we know the nutrition and the training has all changed, and everything is geared toward the NFL. So while Bill is a huge name and his success is just about unmatched except for the wins in the NFL, it has not happened in college yet, and there are plenty of other colleges that will pay more and still send players to the NFL. So while I get what he's saying, there are a lot of colleges that are doing the same thing.
There are, but Dad, at the same time, having it come from Bill Belichick, like we just saw the value of this in college basketball, right? With AJ Dubbanza that signed with BYU and said the money, it sounded like the reporting is saying the money was pretty similar wherever he was going to go. The reported NIL bag at like $7 million, but said they hired Kevin Young and his staff being all NBA focused was a big reason why he looked at that and said, hey, they've been exactly where I want to go. They've coached some of the guys that I want to be like here. And so if you have Bill Belichick, arguably the greatest coach of all time at the NFL level, who can say, I am actually going to teach you. A lot of these guys can say, hey, we put guys in the pros, we're going to put you in a good position. I've been there and can get you ready for it in a way the rest of these guys can never touch. That is a different sell if the money ends up being equal than a lot of his peers.
I agree. I agree he can set apart because of what he's accomplished. But again, you're talking about young players who may not be as aware of what he accomplished, and we have the players. We have players who are coached a little different today, right? Mm-hmm. If he coaches with that hard mentality that he coaches with, remember in the NFL, players are under contract. They got to stay, and if they sit out, they don't get paid. In college, they can leave after each year. The free agency in college is way better for player movement in the NFL. You can move every year, and if you don't like your situation, if you don't like the way you're being coached, then you can leave. So I think there is that potential for him because he's not going to change the way he coaches, nor should he. I am not saying he should change the way he coaches. I'm just saying all of a sudden coaching 18 to 22-year-olds who can leave after every year and try and draw new deals after every year is going to be different.
Listen, I'm not saying that that's not a massive factor in all this, the fit. I'm just saying what he can offer in terms of saying, I know what it takes to succeed in the next level. And the vast majority of college coaches is wildly different. And Emerson certainly, I think, going to be a big part of his sell as he navigates the rest of that. Because you're absolutely right. These are different contracts than he's used to. This is a different generation of player than he's used to. And a time where they've got more recourse to get out of a situation they don't like than ever before.
It's going to be fascinating to me to see how he handles the transfer portal. And just imagining him walking into like a 16-year-old kid's living room to sit down and talk with like his parents. And his dad's like, son, you're playing for this guy. But what will help is they reportedly increased the NIL package for the football program from $4 million to $20 million.
So this is interesting because 20 million is also the magic number that most people talk about with the revenue share that's getting ready to come in college football. So that's going to be the number for everybody. That would be pretty unanimous across the board. It still remains to be seen if you're going to be able to go on top of that with NIL dollars from your collective. The interesting subplot, this is a little too inside baseball, so we won't spend a ton of time on this, but the board of trustees there, which, really runs every college, not any of these coaches or athletic directors, but the money people that sit in the chairs, and Bubba Cunningham, the athletic director at North Carolina, don't sound like they've been getting along for a while now in terms of the little power struggle about how it went at the end of Mac Brown and who they wanted to see in this chair. And so you do wonder if leadership there is not all totally aligned on this and things go wrong, what the fallout is going to look like if all of a sudden it's not everyone's night. Now, it sounds like the board of trustees were the ones that did think that Bill Belichick was the good idea, if I'm reading this right. So that's it. But again, anytime there's dissent amongst the power brokers at any school, Dad, I am a little leery of it overall, especially because North Carolina is supposed to have been good for a long time. And instead, where we've been at is 2 ACC title appearances since they started doing one, both losses to Clemson in 2015 and 2022, 48 bowl appearances with 23 losses, including 11 losses in their last 14, and only one January bowl game this century. So we could talk about how having all the resources there should make them prime for success, but it's never materially translated in Chapel Hill so far on the football side of things. And so it's going to have to be a show, not tell still before we're really going to buy into this.
And listen, I applaud North Carolina for swinging for the fences with this, because that's what they're doing. They are swinging for the fences and saying, we are going to be major players in the current NFL, current college atmosphere. And so, I mean, credit them that, because remember, the reports were, if it wasn't Bill Belichick, it was going to be, what is he, 35, 34, 36-year-old Tommy Rees? Your former quarterback when you were playing at Notre Dame, and he's now the tight end coach with Cleveland. So what a swing from 72 to 35-year-old.
And remember, they did get publicly turned down by John Sumrall at Tulane, so there's that to factor into all this. There's a lot. It's just funny to hear you say, hey, they're going to be a major player in the current version of college football with the oldest head coach there who's never coached in college. And is getting all these comps. People are like, oh, yeah, this is like Deion Sanders in Colorado in terms of the star power he walks in with. No, it is not in any way, shape, or form. There will be attention based off this, but I can assure you the attention economy will not eat this up the way they did Deion, and he will not feed this the way Deion did.
Until there's a proven track record on the field, the comp will be Rodney Dangerfield and back to school.
Oh, no respect, God. A reference that 99% of the players playing for Bill Belichick will not get when he walks into that first team meeting. Coming up next, we'll take a look ahead tonight at a division matchup in Thursday Night Football. Hooray for Al Michaels. Next on Gojo and Golic. All right, last time on Dragon Ball Z, before we get to the preview of Thursday Night Football, we had a Philadelphia Eagles locker room, Dad, that seemed pretty damn full of drama. Brandon Graham took to the microphone on his weekly radio show on WIP and pointed out that Jalen Hurts, 1 and 11, need to squash whatever they got going on. He said Jalen's trying, 11 needs to be more receptive, and everyone's wondering what's going on in the relationship between quarterback and receiver in that Philadelphia Eagles locker room that, oh, by the way, continues to win at an epic pace. So A.J. Brown was at media availability yesterday in the Eagles locker room, and this is what he had to say about Brandon Graham's comments and him and Jalen's relationship.
Which is being BG, he's emotional. In that case, he just misspoke. Me and Jalen are good, so it's BG. Everybody loves BG. He's speaking from the heart. He's just giving his perception on something from the outside. So.
He's around you guys, all the time, though. Could you see where there might be a misperception based off of what
I think that's what everybody. I think that's what the world did. They perceived what I said about passing and felt like it was an attack on Jalen.
Now, Daddy went on to say, too, that he made the comments about passing because he recognizes, hey, he said, they went on to make this. Yates, you're in my ear right now. He went on to make the sound about passing and the offense there because he recognized, hey, we went to the Super Bowl a couple years ago and lost. We bottomed out in the back half of last season. It's what I was talking about yesterday, Dad. He understands we're going to need to do this and says he's been the biggest cheerleader for Saquon Barkley and company, but we're going to need to be better in this phase of the game if we want to win. So does hearing all this make you believe that this situation is going to be not only better, but something that they can go forward with and feel good about in Philadelphia?
Well, it's a way to start to just acting professional about it, not talking about things, not airing things out publicly. And listen, they're going to get tested with the passing game this week. Pittsburgh's fourth in the league against the run. We talk about Saquon Barkley getting his 2,000 yards. He's averaging 124 a game. He gets 124 in this game. That running game is truly, it is the best running game in the league. But they're going against a very, very strong run defense in Pittsburgh. So the passing game may need to rear its head. And I think going forward, even if there are low numbers in passing, I don't think you'll hear these comments anymore because I think players see what it causes. It causes reporters to ask you questions about it all the way, into the week, into the prep for the next game. You're still talking about comments that were made last game. And I think players at some point realize you just have to keep things in-house. I think they're going to be fine. They're just a running team. And when they need to rely on their passing game, will it be there for them? Those questions are going to get answered, and it may get answered as soon as this week.
Well, and I think that was the point. That was the point I made, and that seemed to be the point that A.J. Brown was making here, which is why I actually love the way A.J. handled it. He said, this message needed to get sent. That's why I don't think we'll hear anything more, Dad, because the message got sent. Yep. It's loud and clear. Hey, we need to do a better job in this phase of the game, and that includes all of us. It includes AJ, it includes Devonta, and it definitely includes Jalen Hurts. And so you're right. We'll get a great test for that this weekend, but ultimately, I think AJ was in the right place with the way he addressed these comments. Yes, Brandon Graham shouldn't have said anything publicly. That seems to be abundantly clear with what we've heard from both AJ and Jalen. I don't think we'll get any more insight on their relationship. And quite honestly, I don't think we need it. I don't care what Jalen Hurts and AJ Brown's relationship is like personally. That's for those guys. But what I do care about is seeing that this team is on the same page with, hey, we have a high standard for ourselves. We know how we fell short last time we were on this stage, and we want to make sure that we are the best equipped possible to go out here and manage whatever situation comes up in the postseason. And if a team like the Pittsburgh Steelers this weekend can eventually take away that thing that we do best, the old Bill Belichick line that everyone in North Carolina will get to hear now, will we have an off-speed pitch when it gets to January and February football? That's what this Eagles team is going to be in the process of working out with a passing game that they just haven't had to use all that much yet. Speaking of great passing games, Emerson, we're going to get a chance to look at two of them on Thursday night here, man. What do we got coming up?
Yeah, we got an enormous division game tonight here, Gojo, between the Rams and the 49ers. Loser is in big trouble when it comes to the playoff picture. Both teams currently sitting outside of that. San Fran showed its pride last week against the Bears. You had LA with that huge dub against Josh Allen and his 6 total touchdowns against the Bills. Rams won first meeting of the season. Gojo, who you giving the edge to tonight?
Yeah, and they're a 3-point dog in this one. San Francisco getting the 3-point home favorite on this one. Dad, I lean Rams in this game here. Now, don't get me wrong, and Ben Solak over at ESPN did a great piece writing up why what we saw and how we saw the Rams win against Buffalo, not exactly sustainable in the things that went into that. But at the same time, I look at that team and what they've been, 6-2, when you had Matthew Stafford, Cooper Kupp, and Puka Nacua on the field together this year, all healthy and playing. They've been potent. They went out there and beat a very good Buffalo team where, hey, the caliber of team there, you're going to need to be damn near perfect to go and win. But on the other side, the 49ers get-right game came in circumstances that were abnormal on the other side here. A Bears team that's in the middle of its second coaching shift in a number of weeks. Caleb Williams as a rookie looking totally overwhelmed as his play caller got shifted to head coach. I think that was abnormal, and I think the Los Angeles Rams are in much better position to take advantage of the areas that are still issues based on injury for the San Francisco 49ers roster. What about you?
I agree. I like the Rams. I think the Rams can score in bunches with this offense, and I just don't see San Francisco being able to do that. So where is San Francisco? You saw them beat the Bears 38-13. But it's the Bears. When they played two of the big boys before that, they played the Bills, lost 35-10. They played the Packers, lost 38-10. So they're not in the upper echelon. They can't hang with the big boys. They beat up on the Bears team. So they as Bill Parcells says, you are what your record says you are. They're 6-7. And they're a 6-7 team. You want to say it's because of injuries? I'm good with that. I listen. We talk about a mass unit every year. We talk about Detroit's defense as being an unbelievable mass unit. Every team goes through attrition. They're going through attrition, and it's affecting them. I don't think they can score at the level they've been scoring. I don't think they can score at the Rams level. Now, again, they're going against a Rams defense that is pretty good. Is certainly pretty good. They're getting. I
think the Rams front four are pretty good. They are 29th in EPA per play allowed. They're 22nd in DVOA. They're 27th in total defense after the last 2 weeks. Like, Dad, they've got a front four that can get after the pass rusher, but besides that, unless they're turning the ball over on the back end, they're not a very good defense.
And even Jared Verse's pass rush rate the last 2 weeks has dropped. It was in the 20s, and now it's like 11%. You don't know if he's hitting the rookie wall. So while that defense, again, and the line, I agree, is pretty good, but struggles in the back end, do the 49ers have enough? Kittle's been nicked up. He's by far the leading receiver. Juwan Jennings, actually, he's not by the leading receiver. Juwan Jennings is by a reception. And Deebo Samuel, just 40 receptions. Where has he been in this offense? You're down two backs. You have Isaac Guerrero as your running back now. So and the defense is just nicked up. I just don't think they can recover from the injuries they have. And the Rams are sitting there one loss away from they realize what they're playing for. Right now, the wild card is Minnesota's the first wild card, Green Bay's the second wild card, Washington's the third wild card at 8-5, and the Rams are 7-6. So the Rams are right there at the brink of making the playoffs. Arizona, San Francisco, and Atlanta are 6-7. They're the next teams down. So they technically could get in, and San Francisco could maybe put themselves in it with a win tonight. But I just when LA has that offense healthy, it's been a little questioning when they haven't been able to score as much. They have one that's been healthy, but when that offense is normally healthy, they can put it together as long as that old line isn't too beat up.
Yeah, that's going to be the real big question on the other side. You talk about the offensive line for San Francisco. That pass rush for the Rams needs something to get home with. Trent Williams already out in this game. Aaron Banks questionable. Yep. He missed the last game, and his backup, Ben Barch, got hurt and is out for this game now. So you're dealing with all those guys in addition to Malik Mustafa being out. Nick Bosa still questionable. All of the key guys in so many key areas, including that matchup up front on the other side, which is the one area the Rams defense can affect you. And we've seen when you bother Brock Purdy in that way in the pocket can really cause his game to fall off a cliff traditionally. Those are all the things that tend to worry you on that side of the ball, at least for this team. On the other side, Dad, you mentioned it, Deebo Samuel, 97 yards from scrimmage in the last 4 games. And we talk about receivers making their voices heard in Philadelphia. He was one that took to Twitter and then deleted some stuff, but then got asked about it and said, you guys read what you saw. So he seems clearly frustrated with the usage there in San Francisco for a guy that you would imagine now, I mean, it's him and George Kittle, so you keep getting running backs injured at this point. The versatility from your offense is largely gone. And with George Kittle fresh off a 150-plus yard game in the last one, I'd imagine this Rams defense is going to be pretty cued in on him. And so Deebo Samuel, this seems like a night where you need to try and figure out a way to feature this guy because, crap, you got no one else.
Yeah, and listen, we know San Francisco has lived off yards after the catch, and I've done a game of theirs this year, and I mean, it is for all of Kyle Shanahan's years, they've been 1 or 2 in yards after the catch, and this year they were damn near the bottom. I don't think they are anymore, but that they've lived off that. And they've lived off that with Brandon Ayuk, with Christian McCaffrey. Both those guys are gone. They've lived with that with Deebo Samuel. And George Kittle's averaging over 14 yards a catch. So George is still doing his thing. Juwan Jennings, again, has stepped up. He has the most targets on this offense. But I just think too many injuries. You mentioned the O-line. There's too much going wrong for San Francisco. And I think the Rams may be close to, even though, again, they have O-line issues and secondary back seven issues, are still peaking more at the right time, where San Francisco, I think, is more arrowed down. The Rams, especially because they have their 2 receivers, running back, and quarterback. You have those 4, yes, you have a shot.
Point of parliamentary procedure before I respond to that point. Aaron Banks, their left guard, got cleared from the concussion protocol on Monday, so he should be good to go and back this week, at the very least, for some good news there. But I'm with you, Dad. I think each of their wins this last weekend were in different ways, right? The 49ers win this last weekend was just as much about the Bears and some of the way they've handled their franchise recently. And, hey, the championship pedigree, even without the championship, they've been the perennial NFC champion for a while now, and they kind of roared back during a stretch where they had looked decidedly not themselves. But on the other side, the Rams, I think you are right, is a case of peaking at the right time and understanding the opportunity that they've got in front of them right now. We know this division is bottleneck, and even San Francisco isn't that far behind in the picture that we're talking about. But with Seattle and the opportunity they've got ahead of them, the fact that this is only going to be, right now, a one-bid league, unless the Rams can make that leap here and win some games that maybe they wouldn't have thought before down the stretch, I do agree with you there. That group up front on offense played a little bit better last week, but it is about that skill group and what they can do that very few other teams in the league can when they are dialed in and on. Now, they're not going to go 11 of 15 on third down again, considering they've been about a 33% third down team all season long. But we know they're capable of being great. Matthew Stafford on his best day can still be one of the 5 best quarterbacks in this league ability-wise, and we saw that there. So, all right, Dad, so we're both picking the Rams in this game here, and when it's all said and done, we dubbed them the team that nobody wants to play. Do you ultimately think the Rams end up sneaking in as the wild card and making the playoffs over a team like the Washington Commanders?
That's what I'm pulling up quickly. The Washington, they finish up with the Saints, the Eagles, the Falcons, and the Cowboys. So the schedule certainly favors them to continue winning, right? I mean, there's only one above 500 team, and that's the Eagles. So they could have the chance, obviously, to stay where they are. But I would probably pick the Rams. They have San Francisco, the Jets, the Cardinals, and the Seahawks. So
yeah, they can win out and win the division still. By the way, if the Rams go undefeated here, they win the division.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right, because they finish up with Seattle, so they may not have to worry about the wild card. I'll say this. I'll just put it more general. I think the Rams make the playoffs.
I agree. At this point, that's what it feels like. I'm not saying they'll be able to go out and crash the party like they did beating the Buffalo Bills every week, but I think the direction this is going, with the health of those players now intact, they will make the playoffs. I agree. So that'll be exciting. I'm happy for Al Michaels. He seems like he's going to get what should be an entertaining game coming off 2 big wins for these teams. Coming up next, though, let's get ready to talk to someone who wants to make sure that the Rams at least don't make the playoffs as division winners. Seahawks safety Julian Love stopped by with us next here on Gojo and Golic. All right, NFL season rolling along. Delighted to bring in a guy who is one of the defensive leaders on one of the hot teams in football right now. Julian Love, Pro Bowl safety for the Seattle Seahawks. Kind enough to come back, friend of the program here. Julian, how you doing, man?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
No, we appreciate you coming back, man. And I know we got a chance to talk to you a little bit earlier on this year and before, but coming off the bye, you guys have been one of the hottest teams in football. You're the leading tackler on this defense right now. So talk to me about the time since the bye and really what's gone into the success that you guys have had since then.
Yeah, it's been a fun month for sure when you win games. I don't know, the mindset kind of going into the bye, we were sitting at 4-5, just felt like we were way too talented to be 4-5. And so I don't know. I think, the kind of approach was to kind of reminiscent of the Legion of Boom days, just to start challenging each other, just make things personal, practice like you should have a ball caught on you, in the secondary, and kind of some of that, challenge mentality that kind of got us where we're at.
Well, it's certainly working. You guys have a 4-game winning streak going on as Green Bay comes to Seattle this week. How has this defense changed for you with Mike McDonald becoming the head coach?
It's exciting. Mike, he's young, he has energy, and he just lives football. That guy is just so in tune with, the scheme. I think it just took some time for us to kind of get acclimated to who we had personnel wise. And that kind of unlocked his play calling a bit more, understanding kind of what type of players we had. Because, it's hard to simulate and kind of rep and understand who you have in camp. It's kind of when the adversity hits, kind of the bullets are flying, is when you understand. I think right now we're at a really good groove defensively, just playing, right now 5 weeks in a row of pretty solid defense.
Well, especially within the division this last month, a bunch of wins in there. You sweep the Cardinals. Did that feel like a playoff game this last weekend, considering how tightly contested this division's been?
For sure. I mean, the mindset coming out of bye week was like, we're in playoff mode. Like, we're in 4-5. We're 4-5. Every game matters. Back against the wall, kind of like we're in playoff mode. Wednesday matters. Thursday matters. Every play matters. Every rep matters. And so that kind of mentality kind of helped us kind of get a chip on our shoulder and get these wins going, especially when you have, 3 division games all kind of closely together. And so I think kicking off, we beat the Niners in San Fran. Huge win for us. It's kind of for the program in general, because San Fran's been running things for, a few years. And then, going into AZ, getting 2 wins off of them, coming back and beating a Jets team in just a crazy game. It's just been kind of a playoff mentality of, man, we got to go and get it.
You look at how the season started. You start out with what, three straight wins and then 3 losses. When with the new coach starting out, obviously off-season, training camp, starting the season, when do you guys feel like you became the team that you are? How long into the season did that take?
You know, when you win 3 in a row, it's so tough because we're just playing, and we just felt like we were just more athletic, more talented, and we were winning games. And so I think when you win, it kind of hides some things that need to be addressed. And then those next few weeks when we weren't winning is kind of when the stuff hit the wall, or hit the fan. And yeah, I mean, we had to learn off of that because we were playing not the cleanest ball, but winning games early in the season. And so then we kind of had to redirect. We took our lumps for sure. But that's kind of been the process. And then we kind of clean things up, and now nothing's off the table. Everyone kind of speaks openly. I can go and tell Mike, hey man, this is a bad call. Don't call this. And everybody's pretty open to it, which I think it creates a good environment of just everyone kind of cohesively trying to win.
You mentioned your role in that and feeling comfortable enough doing that. What's the process been like for you becoming one of the leaders of this team now, in addition to one of its best players?
It's been cool. I mean, they kind of trusted in me. I signed that extension before the season of, hey, just be me. Like, I don't have to be, who Quandre Diggs was, who Jamal was, who Earl Thomas was, Cam Chancellor, any of these guys who've been, throughout these halls. Just be me. And I'm pretty, you guys know, I'm pretty neutral. I'm pretty kind of in the middle. And it's been cool because we also tie that into having a first-year head coach who is pretty open and vulnerable and willing to take, feedback, whatever it is. And I've had some coaches who don't do that. And so it makes it easy on me because he actually is looking for, the best way to do everything. He just wants to kind of create edges for our competition. And so he's done such a great job as a first-time head coach to understand that, he doesn't truly know everything, and he's just open to, any possibility of getting better as an organization.
Do you remember the first time where like you had a bit of feedback and you bring it to Mike and he is receptive of it in a way that shows up for you guys?
Yeah. So, football stuff, man, it's, you guys know, it's weird. Sometimes you don't want to, speak your opinion too much. Just let the coaches dial it up, and you just execute, not try to get in the way. And so I feel like the first thing I ever said to him was something non-football. Let's say there was a bottleneck at the buffet for lunch that day. The staff was eating same time that the players were eating, equipment guys were eating, and we didn't have enough time to kind of eat, get out to practice. And so something as little as that, I just told him like really quick, like kind of like holding my breath, like to see kind of what his vibe would be. And he's like, all right, done. And he fixed it right then and there. Changed up some scheduling, pushed the staff lunch back, unfortunately. I know people on the third floor weren't too happy, but it was kind of the first moment of understanding kind of, oh, wow, he's going to take some of my my feedback.
Hey, somebody's got to win, somebody's got to lose in that discussion. So that's just the way it goes.
Like I say, I don't think anyone on the third floor has ever made a tackle, so I can understand wanting to maybe get you guys fed first here.
Exactly. Marketing was not happy though.
So you guys play Green Bay this week. How different is it facing a team? There's teams that have really 1 or 2 receivers that have way more receptions than everybody else. And then you look at Green Bay, their top 5, 44, 39, 34, 26, 25, 27. They have 6 guys with at least 25 receptions. How much more difficult, if it is more difficult, is it to cover an array of receivers that gets the ball spread around?
Yeah, it creates a challenge for sure. It's kind of like hockey. Like they're doing like line changes and just getting fresh bodies in. And I mean, only a few teams in the league do that. And they're doing it right now at probably the highest level of anybody, just kind of getting bodies in. Everyone's willing to block. Everyone's willing to, run those vertical routes, short, intermediate routes. It's kind of like a full gambit of a receiver room. And then you pair all of that up with just a dynamic running back in Josh Jacobs. And so it creates a challenge for sure. And so we're going to be in tune. We have to be in tune. One, for our conditioning to be right. Because they're just getting fresh bodies on the field. And then just being kind of situationally and conceptually sound. you can't dive into too much of, where Christian Watson is because they just rotate so much.
And then the quarterback that stirs all of that in Jordan Love. You guys have faced a lot of great quarterbacks this year between Jared Goff and the Lions, Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills, certainly within your own division, the guys that you go up against in Matthew Stafford and Brock Purdy. What unique about Jordan Love can challenge opposing defenses with the way he plays?
Yeah, I think he has the best deep ball of pretty much anybody in the league right now. He's very, very accurate with the deep part of the field. He's big, he's strong, he can run, all that stuff, presents challenges for a D-line, kind of trying to get after him. But I mean, the big ball is very much alive with these guys. And they have the receivers to kind of run up under it. And so that is the biggest challenge, making sure we're playing top down, but also kind of being ready to react for the run. And so they do what they do very well. And so it's going to be a challenge.
So obviously we want to talk about Notre Dame, but one more about the NFL game is I'm fortunate enough to be calling your game this week for Westwood One Radio. So I'm getting there Saturday night. Give me a play. I know to go to Voodoo Donuts. I'll eat the donuts and all that. But as far as a place to eat, what are some recommendations?
My favorite spot is a place called Carmine's in Old Bellevue. So east side of Seattle. It kind of has a good vibe of, kind of East Coast Italian feel. It's just, it's a good vibe. It's kind of a go-to for my wife and I.
All right, there we go.
All right, there you go. You got the old man set up there. He gets to come out and experience you guys who have one of the best home field advantages in all of pro football. I know you're a guy that has a ton of pride in your alma mater, though. So talk to me about what you're expecting from the home field advantage and the environment we're going to have in South Bend come next weekend as the Irish get set for the first time to host playoff football in South Bend.
Oh, man, I'm excited. I wish I could be there. But, it's a good matchup. It's a very good Indiana team. I mentioned before, but I would have loved to have a team that wasn't used to the, South Bend weather come up to South Bend in December. That would have been such a great slate. But I mean, it's how we would want it. I guess we wouldn't want it any other way. Obviously, people talk a lot about, you guys know, Notre Dame in the big games, and so we just want to see them do well in these big games. I believe in their defense. I think they have just a dynamic athlete in Jeremiah Love. Kid's a stud. Maybe it's the last name, I don't know. But I'm excited to see these guys roll.
Yeah, I was going to say Love at the next level. I wonder if he'd be hurdling people the way he is in college. It's been unbelievable. I mean, just crazy. But obviously the offense has the running game and the passing game's coming along. But how proud are you that this team really is led by a great defense?
I'm proud. I mean, these guys are so resilient. You see a lot of them young players, as well as just vets who've been around and just have bought into the process of kind of being a Notre Dame football player. It's really cool to see. Obviously, Xavier Watts is just one of the best players in college football. Unfortunately, we don't have Ben Morrison out there. I mean, that's my guy. But this team is so physical. This defense plays together, and yeah, I think if they just play as one, it's going to be a challenge for anybody they play in these playoffs.
You mentioned Benjamin Morrison, obviously one of the best defensive backs in college football, will certainly be a high draft pick here and kind of represents something like in my life, being a little bit older than you, my lifetime. When I was growing up, the Notre Dame defensive back room wasn't as robust and as full of NFL talent as it seems to be year in and year out now. Leonard Moore, a freshman, has come on really strong there. Christian Gray's done a great job this season. You were one of the first guys that I can really remember in the secondary, in the cornerback room there, especially where you played in college, really starting to elevate this. Do you feel like you were part of starting what's now become sort of the foundation and tradition in that room at Notre Dame currently?
Yeah, weirdly, I do. I feel like my class or my era kind of was like a little bit of a renaissance for Notre Dame, the Notre Dame secondary. I think it started with me, Troy Pride, Jalen Elliott, kind of going there and playing really early as freshmen, and so it allowed some talented high school players to realize that, hey, you could play young here. And I helped get Alohi Gilman over to South Bend. And then on my way out, I was hosting and trying to get Kyle Hamilton over. I think the addition of him to Notre Dame's lore really let it skyrocket because he was just on a national scale, just a baller. And so now you see a lot of these guys just playing at a high level, and it's so exciting because now, I haven't had too many Notre Dame teammates in the league, and so hopefully in these next few years I can get maybe one or two more of them over here.
There we go. We got to get the South Bend to Seattle pipeline going a little more firmly here so that Julian's got some company out there in the Pacific Northwest. Julian, always great catching up with you, man. We really appreciate the time. Congrats on all the success yet again personally and with the team this season, and good luck down the home stretch, all right?
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you so much.
And Daddy hits on something big there for every college football player is the pride you take in the guys that you help recruit to come to the next level. You're giving that, $60 or whatever it is to entertain players when they come to town, and landing the plane on that one and being able to lord that over your coach's head, a huge part of every college football player's life, at least back before the money became such a big part of the recruiting process.
Yeah, and by the way, when you get that money and you got $60, I got a lot less than that than host. You pocket that money and you get free stuff. You get free food and drink for your recruit, and you pocket that $60. So that was one of the ways to make a few bucks before you could actually make a few bucks.
The real rub used to be making sure you were invited to the dinner when the recruits came to town, because they would always take them to Ruth's Chris, the steakhouse in South Bend. And so you would try and get yourself positioned to go to that and then be able to get yourself a cowboy ribeye or a porterhouse for two or something like that, and then not have to worry about eating for the rest of the night here. All different now that they got money. We'll have an all different show for you coming up in hour number 2 next year on Gojo and Golic.
Welcome back to Gojo and Golic, everybody. In the world of round ball, we have to keep an eye on what's cooking with the Lakers right now. LeBron James away from the team for personal reasons after missing his first game all season with soreness in his left foot. A scheduling gift, though, for LA, playing just 2 games in a 10-day stretch from December 9th to the 18th. LeBron sitting at age 39 now, trying to navigate the season. J.J. Redick was non-committal on James being back on Friday against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Lakers backup center Christian Coloco is confident LeBron can come back from missed time and impact the game here. He's going to come back, and he's still going to be the same. He's going to give everything on the court. Coming up next, some concerns for the Chiefs' schedule, question mark? All right, folks, welcome back to Gojo and Golic here. As we near the end of the season, we have learned a bunch from the weak teams and the best teams. And the weakest, best team, I think, is the Kansas City Chiefs. Luckiest team in NFL history. They have won games in every possible way imaginable. And their upcoming schedule has their signal caller just a wee bit weary here, gentlemen. So the Chiefs play 3 games in the next 11 days, Gojo. Do you have the same concern for them as Patrick Mahomes does? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, it's interesting, Dad. I mean, you look at what they've got coming up here and what it's all rooted in here. I understand Patrick Mahomes, Chris Jones, the leaders and the veterans on this team, quite honestly, the guys that have a lot of football miles on their body, pointing out what we see a fair amount around Thanksgiving too. But late in the season here, hey, not only are we playing 3 games in 11 days with their game coming up this weekend, a Saturday game, a Sunday game, followed by the Wednesday Christmas Day game that they're a part of here, that this is a lot on our bodies and we're not exactly pumped about the prospect of this late in the season. But compounding it, Chris Jones points out their bye was in week 6. You look at the other teams that are getting ready to do this. There's 4 teams, the Chiefs, Steelers, Texans, and Ravens are all the teams playing on Christmas. So they're all the teams playing 3 games in 11 days. But the Steelers had their bye in week 9 and the Texans and Ravens both had theirs in week 14. And so you've had a long time since you've had any meaningful break, and now having to manage your bodies in this pivotal stretch of the season where, for the Chiefs especially, Dad, you've been playing with a thin margin for error. You can understand why this team amongst the rest of these is as aware of this as anyone in football.
Yeah, now normally I players want to complain about that Thursday game. I don't really listen because we played in Thursday games. You play in a Thursday game, you have short rest. That's the way it is. And in this case, they play the Saturday before, so it's actually the same amount of time from a Sunday to a Thursday as a Saturday to a Wednesday. But where I will agree with Chris Jones is that their bye week was way before the other teams. And that certainly is, the Steelers had the bye week in week 9. So that's a definite advantage. And that's something, and listen, to do a schedule in the NFL is horrific to figure everything out. I get that. But there is something to having your bye week in week 6 and now playing the way through and playing 3 games in 11 days, and the other teams you're playing, or especially the other team you're playing, had their bye week 3 weeks later than that. I can definitely see that. Again, you're not going to get much sympathy from me for playing Saturday to Wednesday or Sunday to Thursday, but when your bye week is considerably later than the team you're playing and you have to go 3 games in 11 days, that does make it kind of tough. I could certainly see them being a little dismayed at that.
Yeah, you saw the quote there for everyone watching on DraftKings Network, Chris Jones saying he was going to talk to the PA about, hey, if you're going to do this late in the season, it needs to be mandatory that you've got a later bye than we had to try and at least give us some relief off this. But, Dad, I'll throw empathy their way just because the only reason this is happening is greed. Like the NFL had said, hey, we're not going to play games on Christmas Day. It worked out last year because it was on a Monday, and now it's smack dab in the middle of the week, and they liked all the money and still said, yeah, we're going to plant our flag on what had traditionally been an NBA holiday and shoehorn this into yet another night of the week. So I absolutely do feel for the players because, again, I understand because this is collectively bargained. There's a revenue split. They are also going to get the financial windfall and the benefit from that, but it's still much more coming off of their plate and their backs than it is anyone in the league office who's making money off this decision or any of the owners of this teams here. The players once again have to go out there and pay with their bodies for this. Yes, they will be compensated on the other side, but to go out there and force 3 games in 11 days this late in the season is a bigger ask on them than anyone else in the process.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And this is how it works. Owners sit in their owner meetings and go over different scenarios, and they hear, again, the Charlie Brown teacher character going, wah, 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 don't really listen to a whole lot until it involves money. And they realize how much money they can make playing on Christmas Day. Their ears perk up, their wallets open up, and they say, we're stuff more money in there. Again, yes, the players make money off that as well through collective bargaining, but that's what runs this show. It's money. It is money. That's what the owners listen to, money in their pockets, and they make the most money. Now, they don't pay the most money. We see what baseball players get and basketball players get. The rosters are smaller, and the money they make is close to the NFL, but not the $15 billion or so that the NFL makes. But the NFL has bigger rosters and more overhead there. So, the empathy comes from the players, and this is from my time to now and before my time, really before my time, where the players are the least thought of, right? I mean, the way the players have been thought of lately is because it was only because of a concussion lawsuit against the NFL where they started changing rules for player safety. But that was because they got sued. That's because they didn't do it out of the kindness of their heart. They did it because they got sued for almost $1 billion that they said, okay, we're going to pay this out, but also you guys can't come after us anymore for anything. And that's the reason. So, yeah, the players are the least thought of group. They are the pawns in the owner's game of life, which is true in a lot of businesses, right? It's not only the NFL. It's true in a lot of businesses, but this just happens to be the most physical sport out there where you're laying your body on the line every single week, and it has a short lifespan of basically 3.5 years. So the players aren't thought of for health and safety reasons unless it affects the NFL. And it's the shortest lifespan in professional sports. So, yeah, it certainly is for the players. It's like, but it's all in the CBA, right? And the NFL and the NFL union, that's usually a win for the NFL over the union anytime there's an issue.
And they also only have so much power when it's going to come to stopping this stuff. We've seen when the owners want 18 games, or when the owners want expanded playoffs, or when the owners want to play on Christmas Day, it's probably going to happen. And so that's the unfortunate part of this is the players' bodies are put in increasingly more difficult positions because of corporate greed. That's really what it boils down to.
I'll say this until I'm blue in the face. It's again, now I probably wouldn't have said this when I was 25 and in the middle of my career, but it's a lot of times you hear older players or older people talk to younger groups in whatever business, and the younger players don't really listen, right? It's like the rookie symposium where rookies actually fall asleep when veterans are talking to them, right? But as an older player, I would implore the younger players in CBA deals to try and get health insurance longer than 5 years. Fight for the right things. Fight for the things that matter. And that's what matters. You're not going to stop the engine from going down the tracks where the NFL is going to make their money. You're not going to stop it. So try and control and get better control over the things you can, and not just have 5 years of health benefits. And you probably won't get lifetime, but maybe get 10 years, maybe get 15 years, maybe get lifetime. Like I said, I think that'll be hard to get, but get things that will benefit you when you're done playing. But again, when players are young, they don't think about themselves as done playing. They think of that I'm going to play forever, and they don't think about when they're 35, when they're 40, when they're 45, and when they're 50, and the insurance runs out 5 years after they're done playing. I know this is getting into the minutia, and a lot of people probably don't care about it, but I feel strongly about it, of players fighting for the right things.
Yeah, I do know that PA has an unenviable task of trying to herd this many people with various different financial situations, the lengths of their career, all that, and to trying to fight for the same things. It's tough against the ownership they go against, but you're absolutely right in the things that are important in the way they go and approach this. As far as the way the Chiefs approach this specific stretch, Dad, these 3 games, Christ almighty, you couldn't script a worse matchup for the things that have ailed this Chiefs offense, specifically protecting Patrick Mahomes on the perimeter, because first up, you get Myles Garrett and the Cleveland Browns defense. After that, you get the Houston Texans and their pass rushing duo on the perimeter, and then you finish it off with Christmas Day against TJ Watt and the Pittsburgh Steelers. And so, Dad, we know the Chiefs have found a way to win a bunch of these games close as of late, but my God, again, we've talked about it. The toughest part in this stretch for them is Patrick Mahomes is getting hit way too much. I know what the pressure stats say for the Chiefs on the season, and I don't believe them because I watch the game and I see 15 in red on the ground every other play. And this stretch right here, with all of that in mind, as they try and cycle through left tackles to figure out who's going to be able to stick there, and people complain about Juwan Taylor jumping off sides, this stretch in particular is designed to really test and see if the Chiefs are going to be able to just survive and get Mahomes to the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, you mentioned even after Cleveland, they finish up with Denver. Denver has 47 sacks. Benito has 11 sacks. I mean, they are playing teams that can get after the pass rusher, and no doubt their weakness is at the tackle position. So we're talking about a team that I just covered that, again, 10 one-win game or one-score games, 10 comeback from behind wins. You just wonder how long you can hang on to that. But they are showing that they have the ability to be resourceful and resilient enough to hang on to it. But at some point, does your luck run out?
Yeah, it certainly seems like this next group of teams has the potential to do that. Like 3 games in 11 days with the way the Chiefs have been playing, Dad, I don't know how they don't walk out of here with at least 1 loss in this grouping here. Jameis Winston just chaotic enough to give it away to a Chiefs defense that's still exotic, even if it's not getting home and pressuring the same way that it used to, recovering on the back end. This Browns offense certainly has a different layer to it with Jameis Winston in tow. As again, you've seen him, covered this team recently. They are incredibly chaotic, and Myles Garrett is hell on earth for what the Chiefs tackle situation is right now. DJ Humphries didn't practice the other day, so it looks like it could be Wanye Morris back in that spot, who was benched in favor of him. And so all of that, the Browns, it would be hilarious if after all of this, the Browns were the team to finally beat the Chiefs in the middle of this run where only the Buffalo Bills have beaten them so far this season.
So, and again, I mean, that's you look past outward, right? and you see the Chiefs have a 2-game lead on Buffalo. They just can't tie them because Buffalo beat them in the regular season and would win the tiebreaker. And the Bills game this week is against the Lions in Detroit. So, I mean, that is a tough one. Then the Bills finish up with the Patriots, the Jets, and the Patriots. Should be 3 without question wins for them. But it's this game. If they were to lose to the Lions, that would give the Chiefs a 3-game cushion, which I don't think the Bills would be able to overcome in just scoreboard watching the Chiefs. I don't think the Chiefs are going to drop 3 games. So it's a big game for the Bills just to stay within 2 of the Chiefs.
Yeah, that one looking like the game of the weekend in terms of what's at stake in that matchup and the quality of the two teams involved in that matchup. Certainly the Steelers and the Eagles, another one that feels like a heavyweight bout in that regard. Green Bay and Seattle, we really do have a great weekend in terms of a lot of these matchups, but Kansas City and Cleveland, also a 1:00 game. It's the early window. There's just a lot about this, Dad, that feels weird for a Chiefs team that is a 4-point favorite walking into the dog pound, but with how they've been this entire season, I don't know. You just wonder how long. I know we've done they can't keep getting away with this joke, but they do. And we know they're a more mature football team than the Browns football team they're getting ready to go up against for a litany of reasons. But the Browns are just dangerous enough. I call them a landmine team because if you're not careful and step on it, lots of things can go wrong.
Listen, this is a game, right, that's either going to be close or the Chiefs are going to roll them. Right? The Browns aren't going to roll the Chiefs. This is a game that's going to be tight, going to be close, or the Chiefs will eventually run away with this game. But the Browns, without question, can be just dangerous enough to be a thorn in your side.
The Chiefs have not won by more than a touchdown since they played the 49ers back in like week 7 or 8 of this season. So Browns +4 seems like the only bet at this point because all the Chiefs seem to know how to do is squeak games out. And again, given the matchup in this one, I cannot trust the Chiefs to cover at this point. That just does not seem to be in their DNA right now. Physically as a football team, based on where they're at between the injury, the tackle situation, and the defense underperforming relative to last year's expectations so far during this season. So we will wait and see what the future holds with that team coming up this weekend. Again, Kansas City has been the class of the NFL, but everyone between the power rankings people and a lot of prognosticators in the sport kind of understand this is not a team that's playing great football right now. They just happen to be the roster and the core of a great team that's won in years past. Coming up next, we'll talk to one of the players from a team looking to continue to challenge not only the Chiefs, but in the division, the Lions, who do lead the NFL. Vikings tight end TJ Hockenson with us next here on Gojo and Golic. All right, welcome back to Gojo and Golic. Mike Golic Jr., Mike Golic Sr., and Emerson Latzia here with you guys. And we've talked about it all year long. The NFC North, Dad, has turned into the Thunderdome around the NFL. The Detroit Lions certainly sit at the head of the pack across the league right now, but the Minnesota Vikings, the Green Bay Packers, certainly not far behind. And the Vikings don't look now riding a nice 6-game win streak here. So for more on that, we're delighted to bring in the man who I'm going to give full credit for this, TJ Hockenson, kind enough to join us now, Vikings tight end, who, TJ, you came back against the Colts, and it's been smooth sailing ever since for you guys, man. How you doing?
Fantastic. I appreciate you guys having me on. So it's been a great year, and excited to keep it rolling.
How long did it take you? You've been back 6 games, as Mike said, but where you felt comfortable, like your old self?
I would say it probably took after the first hit against the Colts. You know, I got hit low catching a shallow route, and once I got hit, got back up, it was like, all right, we're good to go. So and then I think the next game, you know, I didn't have anything in the knee, didn't have any kind of feeling, and so I think it was just smooth sailing. It's been smooth sailing from there.
And when you get hit in the knee, how much of it is the mental side of, oh, can my knee take that, as opposed to the physical side of, can my knee take that?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a lot of it. You know, you don't really know how it's gonna go when you get, you know, the live bullets are flying, you know, and when you're out there training and you're doing you know, your rehab, you don't get hit. So you're doing all these cuts and you're doing all this stuff, and it's great, but until you really get the bullets flying, and you know, you're not in a confined environment, you know, it's a little different. So,
Well, speaking of a little different, your quarterback situation also different than the last time you were on the field here. How have you gone about developing and maintaining that chemistry with Sam, where you weren't on the field at the same time for a long time to begin the season?
yeah, Sam's incredible. It's been a lot of fun to be able to, you know, see what he's been able to do this season, and you know, especially these last you know, 4 games or whatever it's been, he's been crushing it. So, you know, he was great when in the off season, when I was able to, you know, kind of meet him and start to build a relationship, and then you know, throughout the season, just watching him and watching his routine and how he goes about himself, you know, it is really incredible. So, and then when I get back, you know, it was just watching a little film with him, and asking him how he wants things, how he sees different coverages, and how he sees what he wants me to do. So, I think it's you know, every day is a learning. You know, you get something new, and you just, you know, keep building on that throughout the season.
What was the thought when you've only had Kirk Cousins as your quarterback since you've been in Minnesota, when he leaves and it is Sam Darnold, even though you're not involved in playing yet, but watching Sam take over the Kevin O'Connell offense? Was there a nervousness in how this is going to go?
I wouldn't say so. You know, we kind of had full confidence in Sam from the spring. I mean, when he came in, and we really got introduced to him, and we just kind of saw what kind of person he was, and who he was in the locker room. You know, we kind of figured that he was going to do something that was pretty sweet here. So, you know, we've had full confidence in him for a long time. You know, and it's been great to see him flourish, and see what he's been able to do with this offense. He's a big leader, and he really takes over the huddle, and you know, gives us calm when there's storms coming. So it's great.
What do you think his biggest strength as a quarterback is, the thing that you notice that kind of differentiates him from the other guys you caught from?
Yeah, I mean, I think he is one of those people that is very steady. You know, he when things are going great, you know, he's still the same exact person. When things are going, you know, maybe the way we don't want them to go, then he's still the same person. You know, I mean, when there's a 4th and whatever, gotta have it. You know, he's not overly, you know, nervous or anything. He's just like, let's go, the same exact person as he was on the 1st and 10. So, you know, that's something that you really appreciate. you know, being in the huddle and hearing from him and kind of getting the directions from him is, you know, he doesn't ride the wave, and he's the exact same person. You know, I've played with really good quarterbacks in this league, and you know, he definitely sits right next to them, and so it's been a lot of fun to be able to watch him.
What's the talk in the locker room when all the talk really outside the locker room is about Detroit and is about Philadelphia? Do you guys feel you don't get talked about enough with a team that's 11-2?
I mean, I don't think I'm too necessarily worried about it. You know, I think it's kind of been the MO of the year is nobody really knew what we were going to do, or, you know, thought we weren't going to do things that we have done. And so, you know, I don't think anybody in this locker room is worried about notoriety or, you know, what the media says or what anybody else on the outside of this building says. And, you know, I think that's a credit to this team, this locker room. And, you know, I think we just keep going out on Sunday and proving people, you know, wrong or right if you're with us. So it's been a true culture that we have here, and you know, we love everybody, and it's been a lot of fun to be here.
You talk about culture, that tempo set certainly by the leaders in that locker room that surely you're among, but also the head coach. Why is Kevin O'Connell, a guy who's, you know, came over here the year that you got to Minnesota as well in 2022, why has he been so successful at the helm of this team?
Yeah, I mean, KO, he's a great leader. First and foremost, I mean, you know, when he stands in front of the team, you know, he expects a lot out of you, and he'll challenge you in a lot of different ways. But he also cares. He cares about his players. He cares about, you know, what goes on in this building, and you know, he really tries to build that culture of all the guys, you know, truly loving each other and truly having fun playing football. And that's, you know, something that this league can, you know, it can sometimes be a job, but KO always tries to make it fun. And you know, this building, this organization is a lot of fun to be around. And you know, it's not just Wednesday in week 15. It's, you know, I get to go play football for a living, and you know, you just can't take that for granted, and you can't take this situation for granted. So we're having a blast here, and you know, it's a big reason is because of KO.
So looking at your game, this was coming up this week against the Bears. Played them a few weeks ago. You win in overtime. You have about 450 yards of offense. You and Addison both are over 100 yards receiving. So do you expect from a Chicago defensive game plan them to change things or do things differently?
Yeah, they might. You know, they played, you know, some too high, some single high a little bit last game too. I know on some third downs they were playing some single high man. You know, and they may change that up. But you know, it's kind of been our MO this year of, you know, going into a game and a defense changes their calls, and you know, what we see on a spreadsheet early in the week isn't exactly what they're playing on Sunday. So we're always kind of, you know, interacting on the sideline, trying to figure out what we're going to do if they're playing some different coverages and stuff. And so, you know, it's really all about us at this point in the season is what is the offense and what, you know, we're looking inwards. We're really not worried about necessarily what the defense is doing.
Well, for the defenses and what they're doing, they've got a lot to account for between you. Dad mentioned Jordan Addison, the backfield, and Sam, but everyone also knows Justin Jefferson is the guy first on every defensive coordinator's meeting room when they're talking about breaking down this team at the beginning of every week. We know he had a little bit of a touchdown drought. He gets back in the end zone. How have you seen him manage all the attention that he constantly gets from opposing defenses against your guys' offense?
Yeah, I mean, you know, Jets is one of, you know, the best receivers probably to ever play the game. Definitely the best receiver I've ever played with, and you know, to see how he handles each day, and you know, to see how he goes about his business is awesome, and it's incredible from a guy like that and at that kind of level, you know. And he's not guarded like a lot of these top receivers, there's always a guy either pressing him or a guy over top and waiting for him, if he beats the first guy. So it truly is wild to see what the defenses do with him, and really gives us a lot of chances to exploit and puts us one-on-one with other guys. And so, he's a true team player. He's the same guy every day he gets in, even if he doesn't have a touchdown or, 200 yards. And so he's the exact same teammate. It's been a lot of fun to be able to play here with him and see how he goes about every day.
No, it's been incredible to watch, and really, since you've returned to the lineup, the layers your guys' offense has that opposing defenses have to account for is insane. And listen, the layers to your game, like, I am constantly in awe. This is, for you, Kittle, all of your Iowa brethren in the NFL, what sickos you guys are at the point of attack. Like, what's the first meeting like when you show up as a tight end at Iowa, where they indoctrinate you into this culture where you guys are basically skinny offensive linemen just wearing numbers in the 80s? How does that go? Because the product seems so consistent when you guys get to the next level that you're all just not even just willing, but want to stick your face in the fan and go and smack somebody.
Yeah, you better learn how to block. I think that's the first thing we learned in one of the first meetings. So, we did that a lot at Iowa. We did blocks. We did 9-on-7. We did, all these different things in order to, really callous the mind of blocking and figure it out. You're kind of thrown in the fire. So, George was there when I was there. I went back and saw Laporta when he was there, and obviously Noah Fant and I were there together as well. So, Iowa guys, we all kind of stick together, and, we were constantly on the phone, constantly talking, but, it truly is tight end you.
It's unbelievable. Well, speaking of tight end, you two, how have you guys pulled off this National Tight End Day coup? I have never seen someone be able to invent a holiday as successfully as you guys have.
I don't know. I think it just kind of caught on. I think it started as a joke is what I've been told, and it's continuously caught on every year. So it's a blast. We enjoy it. We'll take the notoriety as much as we can. We do the hard jobs, and we don't always get the praise. So it's fun.
No, there's no doubt about it. Well, we're glad that you're back and getting the praise now. It's great to see you back out on the field, TJ. Congratulations on all the success, and best of luck down the home stretch. All right, man? Hopefully we'll talk to you soon.
Beautiful. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it.
Thanks, TJ.
Dad, it really is a thing of beauty. Like, just having certainties in life. In a day and age where Bill freaking Belichick is getting ready to coach college football, that I can turn on the tape every time and know if I've got an Iowa tight end, whether he's at school or in the NFL, I'm going to watch him whoop somebody's ass, warms my fat heart.
Well, yeah, just the way you start out, you have to stick your face into a defender's chest, and you'll catch passes later. Now, he won the Mackey Award as the top tight end in the country before he left Iowa, but the start of it, you're right. It's like, wait a minute, am I a pass catcher or am I a blocker? And it's like, son, you're a blocker. You are a blocker. You're a glorified offensive lineman, and you'll transition into a pass catcher. And they certainly have a number of talented tight ends in the NFL. And listen, their game against Chicago, they played Chicago a few weeks ago. Chicago took them to overtime. We'll see. Since Thomas Brown had one game as head coach, the offense kind of took a step back. We'll see if the Bears can make this a game, because the Vikings, listen, they understand where they are. And they're only one game away from Detroit, and they finished the season with Detroit. Now, Detroit beat them in their first game this year, but they have the Bears, and they play the Seahawks, the Packers, and the Lions. So it's kind of right there for them.
It really is, and this is a team where they had a little bit of an offensive lull in the middle of the season, really before TJ came back into the lineup and Sam Darnold turned the ball over a little more, and I think people started to go, okay, this is what we thought and this is what we expected, and have kind of ignored this stretch of games now where, to his point, Sam Darnold coming off a 5-touchdown performance against the Falcons might seem to show, hey, this group is built for the long haul and a really serious playoff run. So plenty more on that, but coming up next, let's take a look at the NBA Cup playoffs that are now laid out with the semifinals set for Vegas next. Brady Bunch house. All right, welcome back to Gojo and Golic. The NBA Cup finally has their field set, Dad, as we have talked about this year. Now it's the NBA Cup. It was the in-season tournament last year, but we've got the bracket set for the Final Four here punched. On one side, you're going to have the Milwaukee Bucks against the Atlanta Hawks, who we'll get to at a big win last night in Madison Square Garden against the Knicks. But on the other side, we get the Thunder, the 1 seed, and the number 2 seed Rockets that get a win over the Golden State Warriors last night. And that win was not without some controversy, Dad. The end of that game here, Steve Kerr irate as a foul so far away from the basket ends up costing the Golden State Warriors, at least in part, a game where they had a lead, could have held on to it. But this was Steve Kerr and the emotions of that loss with this NBA Cup semifinal appearance on the line after had to say.
A loose ball foul on a jump ball situation, 80 feet from the basket with the game on the line. I've never seen that. I think I saw it in college one time, 30 years ago. Never seen it in the NBA. That is, unconscionable. I don't even understand what just happened.
So what did happen was the Warriors were up by 1. Steph Curry misses a three-pointer, and then there's a scramble for the loose ball. Gary Payton II gets possession. Fred VanVleet slides on top of him, and then Payton tries to throw the ball out to Jonathan Kuminga, but Kuminga and Jalen Green end up getting tangled up and hit the floor, and Kuminga ultimately called with the foul there with 3.5 seconds left, Dad. So how real is his gripe at the end of this one?
Oh, I think it's absolutely real. I mean, it's a kind of a scrum for the ball. As Steve Kerr said, it was obviously a longer interview, or presser after. He said Atlanta was trying to call a timeout. He said, or Houston was trying to call a timeout. Just give them the timeout. Give them the timeout. Let the players then earn the victory. Don't put them at the free throw line. As he said, this was in the backcourt, 80 feet from the basket, that they're giving the Rockets 2 free throws to potentially win the game, and they do win the game. So, yeah, I agree. Now, on the other side of it, Golden State had a 6-point lead. Yes. Hold the lead, right? It comes down to that play, but it's always not about that last play. You got a 6-point lead, hold the lead, and you're going to Vegas. Because he was even asked, a reporter tried to spin it forward and say, well, now you get 3 days rest. So what do you think about the rest? He's like, I don't want to talk about that yet. I'm still pissed. I wanted to be in Vegas. We wanted to win this thing, Emerson.
I mean, Gojo, that's the thing. All the talk is about the foul, but my God, Steph Curry took that shot, a bad shot, at the worst time. And that, to me, is what is costing them a trip to the NBA Cup semifinals. You could have basically run the freaking clock out to win, but instead launched an early, errant three.
Yeah, listen, I'm with you. Ultimately, it falls on them, but I don't know. Anytime the refs insert themselves, and you open yourself up to that when you make a mistake like that, the refs inserting themselves into this game, but a call this egregious, I think, still is kind of a rough way for this to go. I do think the best spin, though, for this in the NBA is, Dad, Steve Kerr, while maybe some of this is showmanship and a coach trying to go out here and show his team how much he cares, but the idea that teams do care enough to want to go and get back to the NBA Cup, that this in-season tournament that's morphed into the NBA Cup is something that people actually care about being a part of enough to go and have a high-pressure game like this that feels like it has stakes on the other side when a trip to Las Vegas is the reward there. Because Emerson, in the other matchup that we saw last night here, there was also a lot of emotion in this game that mercifully didn't boil over because, surprise, surprise, not every bit of disrespect has to end with hands.
For sure. Trae Young doesn't seem like he's going to be losing his enemy number one status at Madison Square Garden anytime soon either, guys. Hawk star, he dribbled out the clock, right? In their win over the Knicks on Wednesday night. And he had some fun at the mid-court logo under the bright lights of MSG. No, he's not planting a flag. He decided to pretend he was rolling dice on the logo there at center court. So his eyes are set on Sin City now, Gojo, but how disappointed are we in New York showing?
Dad, that game from like the third quarter on, I said was Sandy Lyle, Along Came Polly, Rain Man level shooting from both teams here. Just dirt getting chucked up by everybody, including the New York Knicks, who pace of play, we know they play a slower brand of basketball here, and it bit them in the ass when the shooting went completely dry. The Hawks, I mean, DeAndre Hunter, 24 points off the bench, just a monster performance out of him in this game. But Trae Young ultimately gets to go and yet again play spoiler in a game where the Knicks had a big lead for a while and then wound up having the script flipped on them. Something about that building really lights Trae Young up, but I was really heartened, Dad. Jalen Brunson, after the game, got asked about that moment and said, if we don't want him to do that, we need to win the game. Hey, college football, take a look at it. Can be that easy. He was provoked at half court by someone from the other team doing something to intentionally antagonize him, and no one felt the need to go out there and say, we're not going to let that happen and defend their turf. No one felt the need to then draw pepper spray on anyone involved, and as we'll get to in a little bit, no one felt the need to try and go and put a bill against the state legislature to try and make it a felony here. We can get through this and be just fine because at the end of the day, Jalen Brunson's right. To the victors goes the spoil. Everyone else needs to quiet down.
Yeah, I thought it was actually rolling the dice was actually a pretty cool move by Trae Young. Knicks got locked out last year in the quarterfinals against the Bucks. The semis, the semis this year, Oklahoma City, Houston, Atlanta, Milwaukee, as opposed to last year, it was the Pelicans and the Lakers and the Pacers and the Bucks, with ultimately the Lakers beating the Pacers. So how do we think the ratings are going to be? Obviously, you had the Lakers win it all last year, led by LeBron James. This year, obviously, you don't have LeBron, but you have the top two teams in the West in Oklahoma City and Houston playing in the semis.
Yeah, obviously, if you're trying to draw more attention and eyeballs to your product, as we saw with, remember, before even the in-season tournament last year, Adam Silver's precious play-in tournament in the NBA, when you've got the Golden State Warriors or the Los Angeles Lakers in that, it's better for the product and everyone immediately buying in and talking about what a good idea this was here. Having LeBron or Steph Curry involved, usually a recipe for success in the NBA. That being said, with this Final Four field, Dad, I think you've got a good mix of, hey, the Oklahoma City Thunder are established now. That is a team that people know they were a favorite for the NBA Finals coming into this season here. So you've got them and the Milwaukee Bucks, who have Giannis and Damian Lillard and a team of known stars and a known commodity on one side. Trae Young is a guy who, hey, it maybe hasn't gone exactly how we thought it was going to go after years ago in their playoff appearances. And then a Rockets team that is young, upcoming. Ime Udoka continues to coach the hell out of this team full of young star players, looking like they're ready to make that turn. One of the best defensive teams already in the NBA. And I feel like could be this year's version, Dad, of like what the Pacers were last year, where, hey, all of a sudden this Pacers team and some of the star players on there and Tyrese Halliburton became more household names after making a deep run in the tournament here. I feel like the Rockets could fit that mold for the NBA this year in a Final Four that I think is probably better than it's going to get credit for.
Yeah, I would agree. And I think obviously the surprise, not to make the semis, but the surprise so far this year would be the Houston Rockets, right? I mean, Atlanta's in the semis, but they're sitting 7th in the East at 14-12. Rockets being 2 in the West. I think with the depth of the West we talked about before the season started, that depth of the West, I don't think Houston was talked about a ton. And here they are sitting in the 2 slot. So I think for the season, they would be the surprise team. But again, going into the Vegas thing, we as we talked about, the NBA Cup grew on us last year. Only players not even knowing about games until the floor looked different than, oh, this is a cup game, to where it's kind of evolved to where it's looked forward to now by the players, especially the 4 teams going to Vegas. I'll always say, put the $15 million in cash on the side of the court, just like they do in the World Series of Poker. But be that as may, I think it's a fun in-season tournament.
I think it plays an important role now in a world where the NFL is trying to come in and plant their flag on the Christmas Day holiday that was normally the NBA's introduction to the wider audience that was still stuck in football season until that point in time and checking in. Now the NBA Cup is what serves to introduce a team like Houston that showed up in a way that some people didn't expect, that wasn't here last year, that now can be shown to this NBA audience and is going to have their moment on this stage in Vegas. Unfortunately, not yet by a duffel bag full of money to try and introduce themselves to that wider audience. We'll finish up with this, that, and the third next on Gojo and Golic. All right, time to finish off the show the way we always do. This, that, the third. 3 quick stories to send you into the rest of the day. Download, subscribe, rate, and review the show. Leave us a 5-star rating and watch us here live Monday through Friday from 8 to 10 a.m. Eastern on the DraftKings Network. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Go ahead and check that out. Gojo and Golic on YouTube. All of our interviews go up there. The full version of the live show each and every day. Plenty of shorts and goodies there. Make sure you check that out. But if you got to miss us live or our great guest, thank you to Seahawks safety Julian Love joining us in the first hour of the show, and Vikings tight end TJ Hockenson in the second. You can catch both of those interviews in their entirety on our YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcasts. Guys, let's start off with this, that, and the third with this. We talked a little bit about the half-court midfield politics at the end of games. Jalen Brunson handling the loss like a pro against the Atlanta Hawks at Madison Square Garden. We know that wasn't the case in college football a couple of weekends ago, most notably highlighted by the brawl after the game at Ohio State, where Michigan goes to plant their flag after an upset, pepper spray ensues, a whole bunch of fines, and now apparently an attempt at a law. Ohio State Representative Josh Williams introduced a bill on Tuesday that would try and classify flag planting at Ohio Stadium and Buckeyes football games as a felony. What? Ohio State fans, I can only hope that you do not claim this man. Now, that guy I think is from Toledo. He's an Ohio State fan. I saw a video someone shot with him yesterday here. I can only hope, Ohio State fans, that you in no way, shape, or form actually support this. I'm going to give you enough respect to believe that you don't actually condone this kind of embarrassing behavior. Because, Dad, I don't know this guy. I don't know Josh Williams or his character, but this is dork behavior at the highest level, to be down this bad after a loss that you want to charge someone who does something like this on a football field with not any of the violence. By the way, doesn't want to charge anyone, doesn't want to charge the officer that pepper sprayed people, wants to charge someone for planting a flag with a felony has got to be one of the dumbest, most embarrassing things I've heard in the wake of a rivalry game in quite some time.
I love when the politicians get involved in sports. Hey, Josh, just stay away from sports, okay? It's enough to worry about in the world and politics and worry about the friggin' sports and flag planting. Are you kidding me? The bill says no person shall plant the flag with a flag attached, plant a flagpole with a flag attached to it in the center of a football field at Ohio Stadium of the Ohio State University on the day of college football competition, whether before, during, or after the competition. Whoever violates this section is guilty of a felony of the 5th degree. Hey, Josh, stick it, bud. Are you serious? I mean, are you friggin' serious? Knock it the hell off. Now, if the NCAA wants to make it a rule to not plant the flag in the middle of the field and you take care of it by fining a team, okay. But I mean, a felony? Give me a break. Just stay out of sports, politicians. Stay out of sports.
It's like the kind of over-the-top action you would expect to see from someone who actually went to Ohio State, but it's not. This is the weakest thing I have ever seen, Gojo. It should be a felony. What should be a felony is losing to Michigan 4 times in a row with a $20 million roster.
What should be a felony is introducing a bill that tries to make flag planting a felony. That should be a felony, and he should be subject to whatever penalties come from that. This is a dumb idea. Politicians usually do this to get attention for something they want, and I'm sure that's the subtext of this situation, but we are not going to not make fun of it. I was thinking about this the other day, though, Dad, with revenue sharing on the horizon and money finally coming from the school's pockets to pay players that potentially going forward from here, one of the easy solutions to this is what we see in pro sports all the time. You just find the people that are doing it. Like, you take that, I remember my first training camp with the Pittsburgh Steelers when someone was late. We were on the field after the game, after practice, and Mike Tomlin looks and goes, "This isn't college. I don't have to go and run you or do anything. I'll just lighten your wallet and fine your ass." Like, that becomes real very quickly. And so I do think that now, when it was the collectives before, there weren't exactly employees. It was enough of a gray area to where I'd be comfortable with that. But once the money starts coming from the school, and this is more of an employment status thing, fining someone is a very real way to curb behavior, and I have a feeling that might be something that comes up sooner than later. Emerson, let's get to something we're more excited about and talk about food.
Yeah, absolutely. Very interesting food. You guys love food. I love food. We all need food to survive. And one NFL player recently revealed that he had a unique meal on Thanksgiving. Listen to this.
I didn't see that. I said, no, what do you mean raccoon? Like the raccoon?
Like a raccoon that you see in the trash can.
Where do you even eat that at? Where do you even get that?
I hunt it, I kill it, I skin them, cook them, eat them, all that.
So when's the last time you had a raccoon?
Thanksgiving.
You know,
Xavier Legette, the wide receiver and first-round pick for the Carolina Panthers, was on with the St. Brown brothers, Amon-Ra and Equiminius, and revealed that he had raccoon for Thanksgiving here. I like to keep an open mind with most things. Raccoon meat would not be the first item up on the list of things that I would want to try and review in the car. Dad, are you giving this a shot? If Xavier comes over and says, hey, I just hunted this for you, I'm going to go over, I'm going to do it, I'm going to skin it up right and cook it right here. Are you taking a bite of Xavier Legette's cooked raccoon?
no.
I'm probably going to try it, but man, I mean, hunting raccoon, it's easy to hunt raccoon. Just go to a trash can, and you'll find raccoons. I mean, this sounds
those creepy little hands, though. You gotta fight against someone with those little hands. They're so dexterous.
I would have to be 4 or 5 drinks in, I think, to even attempt
water for me
to taste this.
Yeah.
I wonder what the meat is like.
Okay, so I'm glad you asked that because I started doing some hardcore research, okay? And did you know raccoon was once a Thanksgiving feast that was even fit for a president? Former President Calvin Coolidge was gifted a very plump raccoon in 1926, but the critter was so beloved that they decided to let the raccoon live and then eventually sent it to a zoo when he was out of office in 1928. And the meat is described as tasting like a combination of chicken and suckling pig.
Oh, suckling pig.
Yeah, dude.
Sounds pretty good.
Everything, and they say everything tastes like chicken. I mean, when you eat something, what does it taste like? It tastes like chicken. I mean,
but suckling pig, you throw that in there. I mean, that's, gotta taste a little bit like bacon, a little piglet. Just
sounds tasty.
Salivating a little bit. I think I might be open to the possibility of some raccoon. Maybe we can get Xavier Legette to come by in the offseason and cook us up some raccoons since he seems to have the medicine. If it's good enough for him to eat on Thanksgiving, based on what we've seen and know about this man's food profile, I feel pretty good about trying whatever he's slinging there. Emerson, let's finish this off with some healthy debate in the third. What do we got?
Yeah, imagine the fellas just sitting around watching the college football playoff, passing around like a raccoon leg. Well, this has been a big debate here brewing on social media. Picture this here. Big game, Notre Dame in the championship, fellas. Best seat in the house in this picture. Which one are you going with?
Oh, it's the single seat. It's the single seat for sure.
Look at where it is relative to the TV.
Yeah. There's one correct answer in this, guys. I want to hear y'all's first.
Yeah, it's 3.
No, it's
listen,
2.
you can see the TV just fine from that single seat.
No.
You can see it just fine. And you have the single seat. You can move however you want. Everything else is either a couch or a kind of a love seat situation that you're sharing with somebody. I know there's space in between, but I'm going with the single seat.
Yeah.
In the 3-hole on the big couch, you've got space in between, like you're on a flight with no one in the middle seat here. You are directly in front of the TV, and you're far enough away. You've got table access right in front of you. You won't be blocked too much by the other couch in front of you. This, to me, is like the ideal seat in a movie theater. It's 3/4 of the way back and dead center. Sound-wise, that's what they game it for, and I think this living room setup is the exact same way.
It's number 2, without a doubt. Number 2, that's the alpha seat in that picture. You're center of the room, fellas on both sides of you, direct line of vision to the TV, easy access to the fridge full of bevies. Miss me with that single chair stuff, okay? Probably like that single chair in the corner of your hotel rooms, too.
We all disagree, which means the oldest guy in the room is right, which is me, because it's my birthday.
Oh, that's right. Oh, now you're happy.
Happy birthday to Dad. Download, subscribe, rate, review the podcast, and wish Dad a happy birthday. Leave it a 5-star rating. Thanks so much. Enjoy Thursday Night Football. Congrats, Al Michaels. We'll talk to you tomorrow.